Hey, y'all. My name is Jeffrey Rickman. I'm a Global Methodist elder, and I've been doing this PlainSpoken project for over a year now, where I cover a lot of things pertaining to the United Methodist Church and the Global Methodist Church and Methodism and Christianity more broadly. So I've spent a lot of time recently putting out a series of segments that are aimed at building up Global Methodists and hopefully helping the United Methodist Church make good decisions when it comes together for General Conference. So check out all that content, but the content that I'm known for is doing a lot of commentary on developments within the United Methodist Church and Global Methodist Church. United Methodist Church is obviously older. It has a much more substantiated culture, and there's a lot more to comment on, but you can assume that I'm going to comment on more. The GMC coming up. And it's with the GMC in mind that I'm reporting on this. There are messed up people in every group. In every group, there are messed up people. Some groups have more messed up people than others. Some systems promote a great deal of personal dysfunction. I would be of the mind that the United Methodist Church actually does this. But one of the subjects I've reported on a little bit over time has been antisemitism and the problematic BDS movement within mainline denominationalism that has a home in the United Methodist Church. If you don't know what BDS is, it's boycott, divest, sanction. It only has one country in mind, and that's the country of Israel, the one country that happens to be majority Jewish. It's nakedly anti-Semitic, and it's, well, I'll talk about why it is that it has a foothold in mainline denominationalism coming down. But the way that it focuses in on this particular conversation is around a man named Mark Nakagawa. He is currently ordained within the United Methodist Church, although he's retired clergy. He was a district superintendent in the California Pacific Annual Conference. And if you haven't seen it yet, here's the video of what he did. If you look at my screen, this is my Twitter feed, and somebody tagged me in this yesterday saying, hey, we need you to talk about this. But the tag is a disturbing video captures Mark Nakagawa, president of the United Methodist Church. I don't know why they said that. Taking a marker and drawing a swastika on a Jewish woman's package of soda. So here's that video. I don't know why they blurred his face. Well, no, they didn't. You can see his face. Just he's got a packet of soda out there. He writes it, the marker. Admires his handiwork and goes on his way. That's just so crazy to me. And, you know, just in case you're not sure if it's him, she actually confronted the guy. So she had two cameras.
Is there a problem?
What?
Is there a problem?
No.
Was that a Nazi sign?
No.
What is that?
I'm just walking by here. I don't know.
I saw you.
You hear him lying?
I have a camera. Like, what is that? What did you draw there?
I don't know.
Well, can you tell me what that shape is?
Mm-mm.
You can't tell me what that shape is?
No.
I have it on camera. I mean, I know you did it. I don't know why you'd lie about it. See, I told you. Remember what I said? Fucking mafia.
Sorry about the F word there. So, first off, I love living in the era of cameras. It's just so great. It's everything I hoped it would be. I love that we have body camera footage for police officers. So often it's very illuminating. I love that people have Ring doorbells and other videos where they can just, it doesn't have to be he said, she. Can you imagine what this would happen if some lady called into the police and said, some retired Methodist clergy wrote a swastika on my, I mean, it would go nowhere. It would go nowhere. It would not even be reported. But she's got the videos, she's got the receipts, and now we can see it. And you can see this man. Well, okay, let's look at the actual symbol here. First off, learn to draw a swastika before you do it, man. He just didn't even know how to do it. You can tell this is just the sort of thing that possessed him. In a moment, he was just mad about. Well, what was he mad about? It says, in addition, Nakagawa previously called the Jewish victim a fascist at a homeowners meeting for hanging an Israeli flag from her balcony in the wake of the October 7th massacre. So that's apparently her, I think, holding an Israeli flag. So if you've been hiding under a rock, on October 7th, there was a group of Hamas militants as well as Palestinian civilians who broke across the barrier wall into Israel and raped and killed and tortured thousands of people. And that has continued to result in Israel invading Gaza, where they are trying to get a hold of the remaining hostages that have been seized, and they're trying to completely dismantle and murder all of Hamas. And there's a big body toll that's taken place right now, and there is rabid anti-Semitism found all around the world, but surprisingly here in America, and surprisingly in the most elite circles, in particular Harvard University, got a 0 out of 100 score recently on a body assessing their level of Jewish protection, or they got like the most anti-Semitic vote possible. This is something that's taken deep root not just in the higher echelons of the academy, but also in mainline denominationalism, where the leaders often see themselves also as the cultural elite here to bring the rest of morons like me into lockstep with them on the right side of history. So this whole issue has been coded for decades, actually, as a right-left issue because of the, well, I don't know if you've ever heard of neoMarxism, but back in the days of the Cold War, there was satellite warfare where different, not just parts of the world, but issues were coded for. Here's the Soviet cause, or the communist side, and here's the capitalist side. And so Israel was largely undergirded by America, whereas the surrounding countries were undergirded by the Soviet Union. And so it was a place of satellite warfare, not just for the War of Independence, but following the Six-Day War and then the Yom Kippur War. All of these were competitions between capitalism versus communism. So eventually the Palestinian cause became synonymous with communism, global leftism. Some of the earliest terrorism you see in the modern world was associated with the Palestinian cause. And so on leading up to today, the Palestinians as a people group who have, just like every group has its kooks, every group also has some wonderful people in it. Palestinians as a people group, as a civilian population, have been used geopolitically as a wedge against capitalism, against Israel, and against the Jews. All of these things have become synonymous. The whole thing has been coded as, in every situation you look at, and you can see this in America too, obviously, you have an oppressed population and an oppressor population. There's always a bad guy and a good guy, and all around the world you see these forces clashing, and then that's where a ton of our modern culture war stuff comes from. A lot of our anger and fighting comes from. It comes from these different fights that are coded for left and right, and every time there's movement on any of these fronts, there's a flare-up. And so what's this got to do with any of that? First off, within United Methodism, there is a concerted push to take openly anti-Semitic stance of BDS sympathy, divesting all of the denomination's retirement funds from anything having to do with Israel, trying to choke them out. Of course, it bears repeating, if you haven't been paying attention to this argument all the way along, the only solution other than the one that's currently happening, for those who are advocating for a ceasefire or for Israel not to eliminate its enemies, is to be overrun by their enemies. Anyone talking about a two-state solution or allowing Palestinians back on the land that they came from is tacitly supporting a Jewish Holocaust, pretty much. That is what the Palestinian population generally is fighting for and wanting. And that doesn't mean that the opposite solution of keeping them in Gaza and contained and without being able to trade, that's not a solution either. But what this reveals is there are so many people in high positions of leadership that just cannot make room for nuance. They've been so indoctrinated into this way of thinking that's white, black, good, bad. There is no nuance. If you hang an Israeli flag from your balcony, if you would all sympathize with this people group that was raped and murdered across on that day, then what happens is you get called a fascist by a high-ranking person in the United Methodist Church. This guy, by the way, is he's a high-ranking. I mean, here's his LinkedIn, and he looks like a normal. We saw him in his civilian clothes, but this is a guy that is a professional. He's got multiple degrees. If you look down here, he's endorsed by a ton of people, 47 endorsements. He has 24 skills. I mean, this is a professional guy. I think if we go back to the original post, it shows, here's some more pictures of him. I think somebody posted somewhere down the line, he is a board member for the LA County District Attorney's Office for Asian American and Pacific Islander advisory boards. So this is someone who is credentialed. He is well-placed and well-respected, and were it not for these security cameras, everybody would think that this is a normal, respectable guy. I did kind of want to mock a little bit. One of the first statements up from anyone connected to the institution was Taylor Watson Burton Edwards, who said, "There is no such office or officer as president of the UMC. He's just a retired pastor," which is not really quite accurate. He's a retired DS. He was ranking above just a normal run-of-the-mill pastor. And so, yeah, of course, there are some screwy pastors, but to imagine that somebody this, I mean, it's just so nuts to imagine somebody would do this. But, I mean, how many things like this has he done in the past that there were no security cameras, you know? There was somebody on this who said 80% of hate crimes are hoaxes. And I don't know if you know about this, but they're actually, I don't know that you can actually come up with a solid number because there are not always cameras around. But the thing is that there are people who make their bread and butter chasing down supposed hate crimes, and a huge number of them are hoaxes. A lot of it, why would somebody do this? Okay, so let's get into the psychology of this is someone who codes left, and I've already explained why their sympathies are against Israel. Is it that this man is a Nazi and he wants these people to die? Probably not. I just would have a really hard time believing someone that nuts is in that position. Rather, I think that he thinks these people are ignorant sympathizers with fascism and that they don't care at all about Palestinians. And so he wants to put some hatred and fear into their hearts. And so an easy way to do that is to just write a symbol that represents Jewish Holocaust. Pretty much that's what it's synonymous with, so as to just make them be in terror. I saw somewhere, I don't know if he's responded at all. I know a lot of people have anticipated he's going to say, oh, this is some kind of Japanese, Buddhist, or Hindu symbol of peace or something. Actually, I could have sworn I heard him say it on that video when I watched it yesterday, but I guess not. The fact that he just instantly denied it. Oh, I was just walking by. Oh, I don't know anything about this. And she's going, I have you on camera. He's going, I got nothing to say. I mean, that is just so indicative that he knew he was doing something wrong. He knew he was caught. There was nothing to say. He just wanted to get out of there at that point. The only thing to say at this point, there is no redeeming it. Here's the statement regarding Reverend Mark Nakagawa from Calpac UMC. Our community was saddened to learn over the weekend about an incident in December involving one of our retired clergy and former district superintendent, Mark Nakagawa. The California Pacific Annual Conference does not condone any form of hate or discrimination. We are committed to loving our neighbors, fostering an inclusive and respectful environment for all, and nurturing interfaith relationships in our communities. Reverend Nakagawa retired from active ministry in July 2023. He is currently in a supervisory process regarding this incident. So it remains to be seen if there's going to be any real repercussions for this guy. He's already retired. He's drawing his pension. So I think the worst thing that they can do is kick him out of the UMC. I'm not really familiar with California hate crime law, and if he can actually be charged and punished in any serious way. Credit to Jeremy Smith. I think the only thing to say is unbelievable, unconscionable. This is, I think, what we have chargeable offenses for. And the news report says he was educating her. No, turn in your credentials. So, and then he has to say this bottom part, mirroring Taylor Watson Burton Edwards, as though that matters. I just think it's so weird that, actually, no, he's not president. That's not I mean, he was a United Methodist. He was in these higher echelons of United Methodism. If you want to imagine that he alone has this visceral reaction against anyone who sympathizes with Israel, I mean, you're just silly. I mean, this is something that is in the water. of United Methodist leadership, because United Methodist leadership is largely neo-Marxist. That they see through the lens of oppressed, oppressor, and they see it as their role to take the right social stands at General Conference and make the right social principles and have this book of resolutions that they all pass. But they want to align their money with all the leftist causes. So they have Westpath that doesn't allow any of their stuff to get involved in firearms, or they want it to be apportioned for environmental causes. Like this is just part of a much larger picture that is made up of individuals who are collaboratively working together to manipulate American society or global society in the direction that they want. And I guess to a degree, that's what all institutions are doing, and there's nothing necessarily malign about that. The problem is whenever you have this dishonesty on the front end of, oh, no, I'm not doing that. No, that's not really what I want. The dishonesty of BDS in particular, I'm going to keep coming back to this because you're going to see this at General Conference this year and every General Conference, because this is another front on which neo-Marxists are wanting victory. They're wanting to alienate and isolate Israel so that eventually there is a genocide against Israelis, whether or not they're overrun and their bodies are killed, or they just have to abandon the Holy Land. This is what they want. And the reason I'm so confident about there's just not a BDS movement against any other country in the world, as I said before, whereas there are tons of countries in which much more abominable things are happening than what Israel does to Palestine or Palestinian people until recently. Right now, it's really bad. But also, what exactly are they expected to do? The best anyone can say is ceasefire. Okay, ceasefire, but then what? Because this is going to happen over and over again. So what do you recommend? And I never hear a good answer to that. So in the meantime, this could be something where we just prayerfully lift them up and we hope for the best, but instead everybody feels like they've got a role to play in the social fabric and demonizing the Jews. And that's just... that's evil, is what that is. It's evil that a man who puts himself on the internet acting this respectable acts that way privately towards just somebody in an apartment complex. There's nothing at stake, and so he just felt like he could do it. And I don't know, I feel like that's how Satan works. It's not in big, bold public things a lot of times. It's just little things like this that people get away with, and it ruins somebody's day or week. Had he not been caught, what would this have done psychologically to this woman? How much hate in America is really, right now, one of the narratives going on is this notion of white rage. And Donald Trump is supported by all these white racists that are just so hateful about all these black and brown people doing better. And that's just not really a real thing. People like that I'm sure do exist. But when you're looking at why is it that people are rejecting leftist politics, it's not based on ignorance and rage and nastiness. It's based on a very sober and serious assessment of where we are as a culture and saying we cannot go any further in this direction. But what guys like Nakagawa here do is they imagine themselves to be smarter and more elite and more educated than others, and it's their job to educate them. It's their job to inform them that they are in fact bigots and that they're on the wrong side of history and they need to shut up and let the elites take it forward. I know that sounds very extreme, but this is the undergirding motive for so many people. How else can you justify doing something like this? This is the only explanation in my head other than this guy really wants Jews to die and he's a Nazi sympathizer. So I just don't think that's real. So I think instead he's an activist in his own way, just an organic, single cell person going around trying to put his politics on his neighbors in passive aggressive and nasty ways. And it's really unfortunate. But I'm not willing to say it's emblematic of the whole United Methodist Church. I think on the grassroots, probably most United Methodists support Israel and their right to exist and to some degree hold Zionist sympathies. But when you're talking about those at the highest levels of the United Methodist Church, they probably all walk in lockstep on this issue like they do around most leftist issues. They'll use the word centrist, but it just doesn't hold water. So anyway, I could talk about the other United Methodist clergy getting caught selling crystal meth for watching gay guys have sex. but I decided not to tie these two things together. But it is kind of a mess for United Methodist clergy. I started this saying that I'm Global Methodist and I'm concerned about Global Methodist stuff. This is why Global Methodist Church needs to have a very strict standard for who can be clergy, needs to have a very clear oversight method. If you have imbalanced people like this in the Global Methodist Church, it is going to ruin our credibility, and United Methodists are going to be right to scoff at us. Faith, we are what we believe. What we believe informs how we act, right? And so we need to have a higher level integrity in the Global Methodist Church so that years down the line, people aren't scoffing at us as just one more hypocritical group of people who talk high and mighty but are actually quite nasty inside. So that's how to pray. Pray for Nakagawa. I'm sure he's humiliated, and I'm sure this is not representative of his full person, but it is representative of a belief that's quite nasty and is going to continue to tear our social fabric apart. And if all you heard me say was support Israel unconditionally and everything they do is right, you're part of the problem. No, don't even worry about commenting because you're an idiot. So that's all I have to say about that. This will be the end of this segment. Join me again for another one soon. Take care.